Good morning everyone, today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios of the Trismegistus Academy Pokevyrn Arc Part 3, Slaying an Elder Legendary. Let's hop in and see which legend will fall.
Previously on the Trismegistus
Ooh, starting it off with Raikou. I'm sorry, I kind of butchered that.
Academy. Jake Tajin and his fellow Maverick class students were brought on a 2-day field trip to dimension P138, which is essentially a world that is a fusion of Pokemon and Monster Hunter lore and creatures.
That's right.
The Tahe students were all given cameras to take pictures of the creatures they found there, and were meant to learn about this world while enjoying exploring, led by their upper year guides. Unfortunately, Eloise Ludum, head of the Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighters, somehow found out about this venture and brought her own students on the same trip. Except, instead of taking pictures, they were to spend 2 days hunting the Pokevyrn monsters to be found in this world, in order to get stronger. The student who killed the fiercest monster would be given armor crafted from its hide. Jake went off exploring with his friend Darwin and their upper year guide Valignus, who gave Jake some much needed advice around telling a girl he had a crush on how he feels, and now Jake is set on sharing his feelings with his oldest friend, Anna Fens, a fellow Maverick student who's also on the trip. When their group caught up with Anna's, a chaotic battle had started, partially thanks to what the LAFF students had been up to. Waru Umarek had gone off on his own, irritated.
I just realized it's Laugh. The Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighters, it's literally Laugh.
That his fellow LAFF students, Alsaya and Katas, intended to try hunting a very dangerous Elder Legend Pokevyrn called the Dalaquaza. He had a brief encounter with a Tahe student in a
I remember that from last week's video, or the week before's video. Either way, I remember the Dalaquaza, and that thing is awesome.
Echo, who stopped him from killing a flying scorpion-like creature called a Cellscore that she wanted to study.
I remember that.
Then he ended up finding and facing off against an apex Pokevyrn called a Charathalos. He fared well enough in the fight that the creature took a liking to him. After having a change of heart about wanting to help Alsaya and Katas, Waru rode the Charathalos to an area where one of Ludum's assistants, Scout the Scout, said they would be. Unfortunately, riding an apex Pokevyrn from—
Ooh, we're actually getting a double up in this. Look at that, we're getting a Jangma-O fusion as well.
Another region into a new territory caused a fellow apex called a Zapdow to start attacking, and when Waru then found Alsaya and Katas, they were indeed struggling to face the Elder Legend Dalaquaza. Now they are all riding Waru's dragon away from the Elder Legend, but back towards the Zapdow, which the Tahe students are now dealing with. Let's see if together they can all handle these two monstrosities, in the next chapter of the Trismegistus Academy.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Jake knew he and his friends were all in trouble, but he couldn't help feeling excited about the challenge before them. Valignus soared past Jake and Anna overhead on his flaming skateboard and called out, "Alright, boys and girls, as much as I'm enjoying tangoing with the electric turkey bird here, I think it's time we call in Headmistress Trismegistus. Facing an apex and an elder legend is enough, without worrying about what the LAFF kids might do here." Jake was ready to protest, but another voice did before he could. "Don't underestimate us, Valignus." Out of nowhere, Amelia Blonsky, with her arms morphed into her freak form, fired through the air and hammered a bulky, scaly fist into the head of the coming sparking apex. It spun out from its heading towards Valignus and crashed into some rocks, before quickly picking itself up and looking towards Darwin and his Thalassadromius he'd been flying on.
Ooh,
they flapped back up into the sky. "I think we can outfly this thing. Let us try." "We appreciate the enthusiasm for pushing yourselves, but I think Valignus is right here." Kalia, the upper year student that had been guiding Anna and Amelia, ran into the stony clearing, eyeing the situation. Specifically the fast-approaching Charathalos, LAFF students, and the furiously pursuing Dalaquaza. "Well, I trust you students to fight well. The LAFF students being here adds a complicated layer of unpredictability. Who knows what Ludum told them to do if they came across us with no faculty present." Jake knew he couldn't just shout out, "Alsaya, Waru, and Katas are all cool, they're working with us in secret to take down Ludum's academy." While the Mavericks could all be trusted—
yeah, no, that would literally just spoil the whole plan.
—to keep that secret, the upper years may be too compelled to go straight to the headmistress about the plan. Plus, if Ludum did have a spy in Tahe that had told her about this trip they were on, they had to be even more careful now about who they brought in on the plan.
Yeah,
Still, Jake didn't want to miss this opportunity, and with Ludum's students here too, it could be a perfect challenge for him to lead them all through, to prove he was the kind of leader who could someday make and head the multiverse's greatest superhero team,
Now
as was
that
his
would
dream.
be a good challenge.
This was exactly the kind of opportunity he'd been waiting for. Jake called to both upper years. Please, let us try. Just because those guys go to Ludum School, that doesn't mean they're evil. Plus, I'm sure they want to live through this as much as we do. We can work together. We can do this.
Unless they have a
Malignus
death
and Kalia
wish.
looked at each other. Malignus scraped his foot across...
Actually, hell, anyone that joins the Laugh Academy probably does have some kind of death wish. Either for themselves or for someone else.
the back of his board, and it flared with a swell of flames. Well, I'm convinced if you are, Cal. She rolled her eyes. Well, I don't want to be the one who ruins the fun, but if victory starts seeming impossible, I call Evangeline. Jake leapt up excitedly.
It's a good deal.
He knew everyone's powers there and already had a perfect set of callouts ready. Unfortunately, before he could start leading this battle, the ground shook from a fierce shriek by the Delaquaza. Through the clouds above it came a barrage of meteors, approaching directly on the tail
Draco
of the
Meteor.
Terathalos. It had dodged plenty of those earlier, but now it was carrying 3 students, including Alcaya on its foot. It also didn't help that they were coming from behind. The dragon did its best to weave and evade, and managed to swirl away from a particularly massive meteor, but that blocked the view of another coming close behind, and the dragon spun right into its path.
Oh no!
Maru saw it in time and leapt off the Terathalos' back to punch it with his elevated strength ability active. Unfortunately, once he did,
Still thinks he can Omni-Man a meteor. I'm sorry.
the shattered pieces burst
Good
around him
luck.
and struck the Terathalos' wings. Katas held tight as the dragon started spinning towards the ground. Alsaya's grip didn't hold as strong. She was hurled away from the dragon and slammed her shoulder into another falling meteor.
Oh, that's got
Her
a
cry
hurt.
of pain could barely be heard through the first meteor striking the ground all around Jake and his friends. Waru was ready to switch to his flight power to help her, but was then struck by another meteor and sent tumbling towards the ground.
Oh,
Mostly
that's not good.
unharmed thanks to his durability. Anna! Jake started, but he didn't even need to say it. She leapt onto his back and they soared up into the air. They flew right towards Alsaya, but a massive meteor got between them and her falling body. Just before it struck them, Anna tapped a finger on Jake's shoulder to warn him, and they both took a deep breath. Anna made them intangible, and they flew straight through the flaming boulder.
There
They
you
came
go.
out the other
I think
side,
it's a
and
pretty
Jake
good
thrust
walk.
his arms forward to snatch Alsaya out of the air. She cried out in agony as she was caught, and was breathing heavily through immense pain. Jake could tell just at a glance that something was seriously off with her arm. On top of that,
Probably
2
broken.
passengers was a lot for Jake. He made his descent as slow as he could towards the ground, and Anna made them all intangible anytime a meteor got close. Thankfully, the Zapdow had to cease its own assault to avoid the falling rocks. Malignus had an absolute blast riding around and over the coming projectiles. Kalia and Amelia grew
Oh, well, yeah, of course. He got pretty much the mon he was wanting.
up right next to Darwin and his Thalassodromius. Amelia
Oh, wait a
glanced
minute.
back. Tell your
No, I think I was looking at I think I was thinking of the wrong guy.
technically not a dinosaur friend to tuck his wings, Darwin. I'm ready, Kalia. Kalia stood behind her and put her hands on Amelia's back. If you start to lose control, as long as I have something productive to smash, I'll be fine. There's plenty of that here. Kalia activated her
All
own
right.
abilities and green light swelled around Amelia. Blonsky not only transformed fully into her hulking freak form, she grew even larger than ever before. Kalia's own ability to
Oh,
enhance
here we
other
go.
people's powers was essentially making Amelia an apex beast herself. A meteor hurtled straight towards her, Kalia, and Darwin, but she thrust
Catch it.
both of her arms forward, and in one swift swipe to each side of her, she tore the meteor in half, and it
That's-
crashed to the
that's
ground
awesome.
on either side of them.
That's a lot cooler than what I said.
Jake, Anna, and Alsaya landed on the ground as the last of the meteors were crashing.
Oh, wow. I think we're actually going to get 2 pieces. But it looks like this may end up being... Nope, this is indeed just 1 piece. But, okay.
Down. Jake did his best to set Alsaya down gently, but she groaned in
It's
pain
a
as her
double
shoulder
spread.
touched the stony earth. I think it's broken. It hurts a lot. There's no way I can run like this.
Jake
Jake
heal
knew
him.
she
Go.
was right, and it looked like a bad break, too. Even with his power, something like this could take him an hour of consistent healing to fix. He couldn't lead this mission if he was spending the whole time trying to heal someone on the sidelines.
Give us something for
He
the pain,
wanted
at
to lead the
least.
team so badly, but he knew that other people could make good leaders, well, only he had healing powers. As much as the idea of being seen as just a support hero bummed him out, Jake knew what he had to do. He pulled back Alsaya's sleeve
Yeah.
and gently gripped her arm as his hands started to glow
You
green.
are unfortunately the
While
only
he did
medic.
that, he turned to Anna. I need to take care of Alsaya. If Kalia comes over to elevate my powers, we might be able to get her fixed up in a few minutes, but Anna, I think you need to take the lead of the team here.
Oh, here we
She
go.
jerked her head back in surprise.
What? But Kalia and Valignus are here. They've got more experience. Shouldn't they lead?
Jake shook his head. They don't know what Katas and Waru's powers and personalities are like. We may have only talked to them over the Mujwawuts, but we know what they can do and what they're best at from
Okay.
talking strategies to take down Ludum.
I know that's the interdimensional watch and all, but still.
Jake looked over and saw that the Chirathalos had made a not-so-graceful landing, but was already picking itself back up, with Katas on its back and Waru flying back down towards it. Jake continued. We don't have time for me to explain what I do, but you've got this, Anna. Anna's breathing quickened.
I
You
don't.
do this.
Shouldn't Amelia lead then? She knows their powers too, and is a lot louder than me. People will.
Jake interrupted. She can't talk in her freak form, and we'll need her in that form. Anna,
That's a bit of
look
a
at
shame.
me. You remember how indecisive you were when we met? You once didn't eat for a whole day just because you couldn't decide what you wanted to eat. Now you jump into action the second you need to. We don't even need to talk for you to know what you need to do when a meteor is coming at us or whatever. You might not know you can do this, but I do, so just trust me, okay? And
Kick some
trust
ass.
yourself. Anna looked back at the ensuing chaos, but her eyes very deliberately bounced from one student to the next, processing everyone's abilities and strengths. She turned back to Jake.
Okay, yeah, I've got this.
She ran towards her upper year student, calling out as loud as
Out of all the mons that are currently in the field that are the most dangerous, the Delaquaza takes first place, followed of course by the Zapdos thing.
she could.
Kalia, we need you to help Jake with healing. I'm gonna help distract the monsters so others can attack them. Waru, that's your name, right?
Anna said, trying to maintain
Yes.
the illusion that she didn't know the LAFF students directly. Thankfully, he'd shown off his abilities like the other top 7 students when they'd come to visit Tahe the first day they'd met, so it wasn't suspicious for her to know his abilities.
We need Darwin, his mount, and your dragon to keep the monsters' eyes off everyone else.
Waru was
distract
petting the
them.
dragon's head as he snarled. Yeah, if you think I'm gonna waste my time being a distraction, then you're
No, we need you and Amelia as our powerhouses.
Anna cut him off.
Oh,
Will the dragon let me ride it? I can make it intangible and keep it from getting hit.
Waru
okay.
looked the Chirathalos in the eyes. What do you think? Is she cool? It snorted aggressively, but didn't act hostile as Anna ran towards it.
Darwin and I will
Oh,
be the
yeah.
distraction. Amelia and Waru, you're on first attack. Start with the Elder Legend and break some holes in its armor. Then, the girl with the star blade should be able to carve into its weaker parts under the armor more easily.
Hopefully.
Malignus, I need you to be ready to catch any of the attackers. Darwin and I will keep the dragons close to the ground, but we need you to get the attackers back in the fight quick if they fall behind.
Jake heard most of what she said and was impressed. That was
There
almost
we
exactly
go.
what he'd had in mind. It made him sad that he hadn't gotten to take the lead, but seeing Anna take charge was inspiring.
Hey man,
It made him even
second
more
place is
eager
still good.
and nervous to talk to her about his feelings for her. Everyone was leaping into action under Anna's orders, but an ever-infuriating voice called out. Beg my ever-colossal pardon, but
There
am I
it is.
seeing this correctly? Are my
Flew
fearsome fighters taking orders from a squishy, fishy Trismegistus Academy softie?
Ludum,
the ca-
now's not the time. Everyone can die.
Chaos
Oh, wait,
Eloise
you don't
Ludum
count.
had managed
Right.
to sneak onto the scene, but even worse than that, she was astride a vicious-looking Pokevyrn of her own. Bands and cloth from her
Oh, she's the one on the Jingma-O? Oh, come on.
garish, colorful dress lashed off her and bound around the neck, tail, and waist of a heavily armored dinosaur-like beast with slime dripping off its burly claws. She leered directly at Jake. Excuse me, you glowing infant, but my students need to learn to be resilient enough to fight through their own wounds. So if you wouldn't mind...
No, I do
Two more
mind.
strands of
Cough.
seemingly sentient cloth flung out from Ludum's back and shot towards Jake and Alsaya. Alsaya yelled out, wincing in pain as she did. Headmistress, please don't. I need help. It's a really bad break. It really hurts. Pain is an excellent teacher, Alsaya, so
Oh,
I
I'll punch
intend
up.
to let it teach you. Ludum cackled. Jake wanted to move Alsaya, but knew how much pain she was in. The bands were coming so fast he barely had a second to think. Thankfully, he didn't need to make any quick decisions after all. There was a mighty howl across the stony plain, and a bolt of lightning fired right over Jake's head and struck Ludum's beast. The shock hit her as well and made her band cease their approach and drop. She gritted her teeth through a barely maintained grin as her assailant's voice yelled out. Trismegistus said I can only go after you if you threaten our students, Ludum. You just made that mistake. So how about we test out your resilience, huh?
We got all Lieutenant Sarge!
Across the stony clearing, astride a sparking electric hound Pokevyrn, was Professor Strone Goggins. He looked at his students.
Goggins!
Stay hard, Mavericks. Fight hard. Ludum's all mine.
Oh yeah! I don't know how you tamed that Raikou, but awesome. Ooh, I love the shiny.
With Kalia next to Jake amplifying his healing powers, he could feel Alsaya's bones shifting back into place and her flesh healing around them.
Oh, that's a cannon on the head? Disgusting.
Wouldn't be long before she was up and moving, but it would still be a few minutes. In that time, Jake didn't know if he should be watching the students taking on the Pokevyrn, or Goggins and his mount, called the Zenaiku, absolutely laying into Ludum and her Bracamo'o.
Nice.
The armored scales on Ludum's beast clanged like cymbals as it tried to dodge around strikes from the massive sparking hound Goggins was riding. The Bracamo'o managed to strike Goggins' beast with its burly fists and with its four-pronged axe-like tail, but none of the strikes seemed to deter his Zenaiku from continuing to bite and tear into its opponent.
Well, duh. You have a pseudo-legendary up against a real legendary.
Goggins himself was basically standing on the beast's back, looking for an opportunity to leap off it onto Ludum. Ludum had more tendrils of cloth spinning from her back, lashing towards him, but none were getting close enough to him, with his beast moving so quickly. Alsaya stared as well, trying to hide how much she was enjoying seeing someone get an upper hand on Ludum. What are that professor's powers again? She muttered with her pain quickly fading. Jake shook his head. He doesn't have any. Alsaya didn't seem to believe it. I thought you could only get a monster in this world to work with you if you beat it in a fight. How'd he beat...
So wait, he is completely human? Nothing? Holy shit! This guy is powerful!
Beat that crazy wolf thing with no powers and no armor or weapon. Kalia smirked. Because he's Goggins. Meanwhile, Anna's plan was working
Goggin!
Well. Darwin was goading the Zapdow enough to keep it coming after him, and the Dalaquaza was dead set on catching Anna and the Terathalos. Waru was flying on next to the Elder Legend, trying to decide on the best place to strike. Katas was once again clung to its back, waiting for her opening. Before Waru could make a decision, Amelia, in her full freak form, sprang up from the ground beneath it and landed right on the beast's back. Not taking any time to think, she raised her massive fists and hammered them down onto the monster's scales. A shockwave burst from its back that was enough to hurl her off of it. Chunks of scales flew off with her, and the beast shrieked furiously. Amelia managed to grab onto its tail and watch, as Katas ducked low to avoid the wind and sprinted along the creature's back towards the now gaping hole in its armor. With a strike that fierce laid against it, the Dalaquaza finally took its eyes off Anna and thrust its maw towards Katas. Thankfully, Waru soared into its path, swapped out his flight for strength, and pounded it right in the snout, smacking its head away from Katas.
Now this
she reached the hole, raised her blade, and carved right into its flesh, slashing again and again and again, getting 3 massive cuts in before the beast whipped its back upwards to hurl her off. Luckily, she was ready for that this time. She flipped gracefully over twice, then tossed her starblade directly into the hole she'd been striking before. It stabbed into the beast, and she teleported in a white puff of smoke back to her weapon, and went on attacking again. Meanwhile, Ludum's mount had managed to
make your, great or grand Amal, proud!
Strike Goggins' Zenaiku
Make
enough
Mythal
to
proud!
Get it coated in the foul green substance that spilled off her beast. The Bracamo'o suddenly spat its gooey saliva at the hound, and all the green slime on it burst into flames. Goggins leapt back towards his beast's tail. As if it knew exactly what he was thinking, the monster then flung its tail forward, hurling Goggins just over Ludum's monster. Before she could react, he flew down and hammered his knee right into her skull, knocking her nearly off her creature's back, only held on by her tassels and bands grappling it. Goggins held tight to its back and quickly pounded Ludum 3 times in the head, striking the exact spot he'd just hit with his knee. Before his 4th punch could land, 2 bands sprang up from her back and grabbed his wrist. I'll make you regret not taking me up on my generous job offer, Strone. There was a sharp snapping sound that made Jake's entire body
Ooh,
shake.
that's
Goggins'
bad.
hand was now bent in a very unnatural direction.
Oh, and he's only human.
He may as well have not even noticed. With his other arm, he immediately started pounding her in the head again. It finally disoriented Ludum enough that her bands
Dude is like Fist. Kingpin.
and she fell off her beast to the stone ground. Goggins looked back at his Pokevyrn. It was rolling in some dirt and easily putting out the flames. He leapt off the Brachimoo and landed near Ludum. He immediately grabbed a large rock, and as she tried to pick herself back up, he hurled it right into her nose, making blood spurt from her face.
Yes!
She stumbled back, and he finally took notice of his broken hand. He gritted his teeth and smacked it against his own leg. There was another clean snap, and it sort of went back to a normal position, but was already clearly swelling up.
This is some anime shit.
And ran towards Ludum again.
I love it.
She flung half a dozen bands in front of her, and Goggins did his best to rip and tear them aside and push towards her. No chance I'd ever work for a punk like you, Ludum, but the second I put you out of the multiverse's misery, maybe I'll just take over your school myself and actually make it one worth competing with Trismegistus.
Oh, that'd be
Jake heard that and
awesome!
immediately whipped his head down to look at Alcaya. Goggins wanting to take over Ludum's school could be something they used to their advantage.
Definitely.
But Alcaya was too focused on watching Ludum get beat in a fight to care. Alcaya was just staring furiously at her headmistress,
Make some good
thinking of how
deals.
she just tried to stop someone from healing her terrible injury. She could feel all her fury at Ludum building more and more. Jake could tell that he was nearly finished healing Alcaya. She started
That's
moving
good.
her arm around and was still wincing, but was clearly not in anywhere near as much agony as she had been. Unfortunately, before Jake could truly complete the process, he heard a distressed call and a massive eruption of lightning.
Uh-oh.
Waru and
Oh,
Amelia
no.
had continued attacking the Delaquaz's head to keep it away from Katas. With it no longer in pursuit of Anna, she'd turned her attention towards the Zapdow, who was totally focused on Darwin.
Oh,
She
not
tapped
the
the
Zapdow.
Tarathlos' head.
Hey, Mr. Dragon, or Ms. Dragon? I don't... Anyway, can you understand me?
It snorted, seeming in agreement.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, that's good.
I'll do my best to keep you from getting electrocuted, like this.
She held her breath for a second, and the dragon seemed to notice its body going intangible as the wind stopped brushing against them in their flight.
Ooh,
Anna took
nice.
a breath and continued.
Wait, how would you fly when you're intangible? As a winged creature, I mean. When you have someone that can, push you when you're a powered flight, like Jake in a way, that's technically not really a question.
You can attack, and I'll keep us as safe as I can.
It growled eagerly and dove faster than Anna was ready for, towards the Zapdow's back. Darwin was soaring on just ahead of it, doing his best to goad the creature on as Velignus had. Come on, turkey bird. The only thing shocking me right now is how slow you are. Right? That's not
Almost.
He saw Anna coming in from above and let the Zapdow get a bit closer to him,
Darwin.
letting it think it was about to devour its irritating target. Anna kept the Tarathlos intangible through all the sparks around the apex. Then, they struck, crashing right into the Zapdow's back.
Oh,
the
yes!
Tarathlos bit into the monster's neck. It shrieked and Anna could see the sparks starting to come. She took a breath and made herself and her mount intangible again. They fell right through the Zapdow's body, avoiding a burst of electricity. Then,
Yes.
Anna took a breath and the Tarathlos spun around and snapped its teeth and claws into the Zapdow's stomach.
Yes,
Once again,
here
her
we
mount
go.
tore into it, then more sparks came, and Anna held her breath to protect her and the Tarathlos. This kept
can
going,
do
and
it.
the Zapdow was getting weaker and weaker. Unfortunately, Anna was struggling to hold her breath at the right times, and was starting to go on and off so fast that she was hyperventilating. She was getting
that's not
dizzy
good.
and called out.
Darwin, I think I need
In a last attempt at defense,
Oh, no.
the Zapdow let out a furious cry, and electricity exploded off it in a wave that Anna wasn't ready for. The
Thunder
Tarathlos
wave.
spared the blast, but Anna was hit hard. Her entire body tensed up, and when the shock passed, her eyes fluttered shut, and she fell.
It doesn't do any
Her
damage,
mount
but it
kept fighting,
paralyzes.
finally laying a killing blow into the Zapdow's neck. Still, Darwin and his Thalassodromius had been hit by the electricity too, and were barely keeping themselves airborne. They couldn't catch Anna.
Oh,
I'll finish
no.
healing you later, I promise.
Oh, no.
Jake immediately sprang into the air, leaving Alcaya and Kalia. Thankfully, Kalia could still elevate Jake's abilities while he was within 30 feet of her. That meant the start of his flight was hugely elevated as he rocketed towards Anna.
Hell
He
yeah.
snatched her
Go,
out of the air
Jake.
and could still feel the tingle of electricity coming off her. Before he even landed, he activated his healing powers. He swung out his legs and dropped to the ground in a seated position, holding Anna up across his lap. He kept his hand under her head.
Good move.
Hey, Anna, come on, you can do this. I can feel it. The shock wasn't too bad. You're tough. Come on, come back to me. Within a minute, Anna's eyes shot open and she took some fast, deep breaths. She looked up into Jake's eyes and smiled. Then looked a bit embarrassed, then nervous.
What, was I out long? What happened?
Just a minute.
Barely a minute, but probably wouldn't have been a big deal if you were out longer. He gestured up to the battles above them. The Zapdow was crashing down into the stony ground, with the Terathalos roaring triumphantly, landing on its corpse. Meanwhile, the Delaquaza was falling faster and faster towards the ground, with its body being riddled with blows that it couldn't.
That means they've actually successfully taken down 2 Elder legendaries in a duo fight, in a double fight.
Valignus had grabbed Katas, and they were soaring past its head. It snapped at them, but missed. Amelia and Waru sprang up right next to each other behind its head. Simultaneously, they fired their fists into the back of its skull and sent it spiraling towards the ground. The quake from the impact shook the earth beneath Jake and Anna. Anna still lay in Jake's lap and watched the ending battles upside down, then turned back to Jake.
That really worked. They all actually did what I said, and it worked.
Hell yeah,
Jake
successful plan.
Of course it did. You're really smart and really good at this stuff, Anna. You just, sometimes need someone to remind you to be a bit more confident. Her eyes danced back and forth between his.
Thanks, Jake. You're a great, you're great.
There was a pause, and Jake felt like there was...
Meanwhile, in the distance, someone's yelling, "Oh my god, just kiss!"
There was a glowing aura all around the two of them.
Nice.
It was as if their hearts were in sync in that moment. Hesitation set in, but Jake knew what he needed to do. He remembered some of Valignus's most important advice. The true prize for telling someone how you feel is not in whether they are interested in you back. It is in the very fact that you had the courage to be honest and open with them in the first place.
That's right.
Hey, Anna, I know this is weird timing, and I don't really know how this is supposed to go,
this is kind of bad timing.
I really like you. Obviously as a friend, but also... More than that. All Jake's nerves melted away as Anna's smile widened as far as it could go.
Yes.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
Me too, but about you.
Jake could see his heart thumping through his shirt. Really? That's amazing.
Yes!
She sat up and kept her face close to his.
Yeah, I was just talking to Amelia and Kalia about it, and if, I should say anything to you about it.
Jake laughed. I only got the courage up to talk to you because I was getting advice from Valignus and Darwin about it. They both laughed in shocked excitement. But their laughs faded with their ecstatic faces close to each other. They didn't know what to do next.
Kiss.
Anna then said,
Kiss.
So, what do we... do we, kiss now?
Yes!
Jake's face darted back ever so slightly. Wait, do we? I didn't think we can. I just... Anna's face jumped back too.
No, we don't have to. I just, I've never done that. I
oh my god, just do it already.
It's supposed to go.
He glanced down at her lips, then back at her eyes. I haven't eaten.
This is literally the most anime moment. Now kiss.
Either I want to, but maybe we. Anna started laughing again.
So
God, it's
later,
so novice.
Then.
Jake laughed awkwardly too. Yeah, later, I think. Despite the confusion, they were both entirely ecstatic, thinking about where their future could go together now that they'd finally been honest with each other.
Oh, this is gonna be
But
glorious!
It turned out the battles of the day were far from over.
Oh,
You
crap.
ungrateful, insignificant brat! Eloise Ludham's cry echoed across the clearing. What they hadn't seen while they were distracted with their confessions was Alcya getting up, inspired by Goggins. She could see how badly swollen his broken hand had become, and even still he'd fought through it like it was nothing. He had no powers and was still keeping Ludham on her heels, nearly defeating her himself. And Alcya...
Dude literally has nothing, but he could put the hands to Wolverine.
Alcya desperately wanted to help him finish her off. Alcya leapt up and away from Kalia and started sprinting towards Ludham. Her injury was still throbbing as she ran, but she just pumped her arms even harder, as if to emphasize to her body, we're fighting through this no matter how much it hurts. While Goggins continued trying to tear through Ludum's tassels and bands, their beasts brawled in the background, and Alcaya was coming in fast.
Oh boy,
It may have
here we
looked
go.
like she was coming to help Ludum at first, but instead, Alcaya ran right past Goggins and tackled her headmistress to the ground. At rapid speeds, Alcaya hammered her fists into Ludum's head and shoulders, battering her against the stones beneath.
Oh, this
Alcaya's
probably
injured
isn't
arm
good.
pulsed in pain with each blow, but she just kept pounding anyway, knowing that's exactly what Goggins had been doing. Ludum managed to get her bands into the path of some hits, but she was well pummeled before finally getting cloth wrapped around Alcaya's leg to tear her off and raise her into the air.
You ungrateful, insignificant brat! After everything I've done for you, after all the training I've put you through to make you what you are, this is how you repay me?
Alcaya hammered her fist into Ludum's collarbone once more before Ludum raised her
that's still
farther
gonna
away.
hurt.
I'll never be grateful to you for anything. You never cared about me. You never cared about helping me find my sister's killer. You're just as horrible as whoever killed Delilah. The Tahe kids just helped me more in 5 minutes than you have in all the time I've known you, and you tried to stop them. Well then, let's see if your new friends can help you again, and can heal your legs after this.
Oh
Alcaya
no!
could feel the bands rapidly tightening around her leg, about to snap it like a twig. Thankfully, before a snap could be heard, Goggins got an opening and pounded Ludum in the head once again, striking the exact spot he hit so many times before.
Thank you, Goggin!
Ludum's grip on Alcaya slipped, and the speedy student pulled her leg free and dropped to the ground.
All right, I've had enough of this.
Ludum yelled as purple rings emerged from her arms. She hovered up off the ground, retracting her bands and getting out of Goggins' reach. Alcaya sprinted away and turned back, ready to run at her headmistress and leap at her. But before she could, Ludum used her Overseer runes to open a portal. It started small, but the ring of purple light grew and grew until there was a massive black void behind her. A bellowing, monstrous laugh exploded from within, and a wave of purple smoke spilled out. The second it hit Goggins' nose, even he got so dazed and dizzy that he fell to one knee. Leering purple eyes and the faint outline of a grinning draconic head appeared, with the smoke clearly spilling from its maw. Alcaya tried to run back in, but got the faintest whiff of the smoke and her body began to twitch and flail. She lost control of her legs and fell over, rolling to a stop. She should have known she wouldn't be able to fight through the smoke of the little Caunus. Furiously, Ludum yelled.
Something completely different.
Waru, Katas, meet up with Scout, Kekuat, and the other students. They will bring you all home. As for you, Alcaya, as if this needs to be said, you are no longer welcome at the Ludum Academy for Fearsome Fighters. But don't think that means I won't be watching you. I'll be watching very intently when you learn what really happened to your feeble, pathetic sister.
Hearing Ludum insult Delilah, Alcaya tried desperately to pull herself up, but the smoke was enveloping her even more.
You'll regret what you've done here today, Strone. I'll make sure of it.
Ludum was just about to turn and fly through the portal, when out of nowhere, a claw the size of Ludum's body swiped at her. It snatched her arm, and the vile headmistress shrieked in pain as blood burst from her. When the purple-clawed creature soared past her, it did so holding one of her now severed arms. The flying beast was one Waru recognized, and astride its back were two students all the Tahe kids knew well.
Are we attacking Ludum? It looked like that's what we were doing.
Niseko said.
Yes! They got the Gliscor!
And from the back of the cell score, Gottlieb was with her, staring in fascination at the gaping wound where Ludum's arm had once been. Shrieking in undignified agony, Ludum retreated into her portal, swelled in the purple smoke that she was clearly unaffected by. The last thing they saw through the portal was the massive, smoke-spewing grin of the beast within. The portal closed and everyone was just left in astounded shock.
Holy shit, they did damage!
To retaliate after that? Should Waru and Katas even bother returning to the LAFF? What would Alcaya do now? Even with so many questions up in the air and so much to process, the most pressing thing on Jake's mind was, I can't believe I actually sort of have a girlfriend now.
Oh, Jake. You know what? I'm still happy for you, man. I can't be mad or upset. Congrats.
What they hadn't seen while it... I think.
God bless.
There we go. I hope you enjoyed the 3-part Trismegistus Pokevyrn arc, but don't worry, the series is continuing, just not with that specific arc.
Oh, the Orc's Oval. Nice.
If you watched this episode all the way through, you probably already know by now, but my book Mythal Lethal is out. You can pick that up on Amazon if you want. Or if you did watch this episode all the way through without having watched the full Trismegistus Academy series or the full Pokevyrn arc, you might want to go back to the very beginning of this playlist.
I've been here from the beginning.
That's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote from Carl Jung, who said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." If you have negative patterns that have kept coming up in your life, it's a good idea to do some introspection.
Sounds familiar.
Look inwards and think about what beliefs you have about yourself or the world might be causing you to attract those same negative patterns into your life. Once you figure that out, you can start to heal those things and change those inner beliefs. And that can either stop the negative patterns from recurring altogether, or your response to them can stop being negative. And they'll just be a thing that happens that doesn't really affect you.
That is
I
pretty
hope that's
good
inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Going straight into the next episode of Fear of the Demon Hunters.
Awesome.
I'll see you there. Goodbye.
Alright everyone, that's going to be the end to today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.